How's everybody doing? It's Thursday morning, and we are back for another episode of Remax, the voices in real estate, in live interview here on Facebook. And the interview itself takes place weekly for viewers in the real estate industry to learn and become better real estate agents. Within Remax, we believe in strength in numbers where people are open to share their experiences and knowledge with others, so Remax agents and the rest of the industry can help better serve their clients. So today's topic is the 10-year hustle to success. And it's with one of our top teams in British Columbia. And our guest today is Bryce Hansen of Remax Ocean Pacific Realty in Comox Courtney. So let's get him on the screen here. Hey, Bryce, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys? How are you?
Good. Well, welcome to the show. It's what week 5 of the overall quarantine. How's it been for you?
It's been definitely a lot of ups and downs for sure. It's you're just working on all your systems right now, and it's been a bit of a struggle, but we're getting through it.
Good. Well, I think we kind of talked about this too. It's you get to the stage of where you don't know what to do at the beginning of this whole quarantine situation, COVID situation, and now we're more into like you said, just making sure your system works and making tweaks, making improvements and everything, planning for what's afterwards. Now we're coming to a stage in which you obviously you do that with your team, and which is important because business will never be the same, right? When we come up, and we have to adjust our business overall to adapt to this, I guess, new norm, so to speak. Yeah. I don't know what the actual new norm is, but there will be a new norm, that's for sure.
It's definitely going to be an interesting next little bit here for sure. So it's you're working on systems that you've never really had to do before, but it's safety for you and your sellers and all the buyers that you're working with, when you're working with one, I should say. So yeah, it's different. It's actually been really good. So
good. So maybe give yourself a little bit of an intro, so that the viewers here know who Bryce is. I mean, I know you've been with Remax for a good handful of years now, 10 years now. A lot of us know you, but also a lot of us that are not affiliated with Remax don't know who Bryce is. So maybe just give them a brief introduction of who you are.
Well, I'm Bryce Hansen. I've been with Remax, like Kingsley just said, that I've been with them for a little over 10 years now. I'm raised in the Comox Valley, and basically this is where I've chosen to put my roots and stuff like that. So I do sell probably about 80-90 houses a year, and I do run a real estate team, as most people know here. And the members on my team are pretty much selling about 35 homes plus a year as well. I've been running the team for about 7 years now, and I'm loving it. And basically one of the things that I like doing is seeing my team succeed on some of the systems that I've put in place.
Awesome. So let's, because this is basically a 10-year hustle that you went through with your real estate career. So we'll start right from the beginning. So what was your mindset when you were thinking about, or what were you doing before real estate, and why'd you get into real estate overall?
Well, I'm a third generation realtor. So back in the late 1980s, my mom and my grandma, my grandma has passed away, but basically we worked together as licensed realtors, and they worked together. And my mom just recently retired, and just because of the COVID-19 with her age and stuff like that, so she decided to put her license after 35 years on the shelf. And basically I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to work alongside my mom for the past 10 years, which was definitely a huge bonus for me at the beginning, working through all the ins and outs. So my mom, she's definitely one of those people that was a contract specialist and helped me, every team member that I've ever had on my team, make sure that we're writing enforceable contracts right from the day that we started in the business. I was when I was asked to do this, I kind of, did a little bit of, some background of who I am. And but one of the stories that we did when we were in Banff, I we were watching the Johnny Cupcake tell us a story about how he owned 9 different businesses as a kid growing up, and one of them being a successful candy bar business that he ran out of his high school locker, how he cut grass, and his story rang so close to home for me. Pretty much when I was at the age of 5 years old, my dad was a commercial fisherman, and he used to stock his freezer full of salmon. And me being the entrepreneur that I was at the age of 5 years old, I'd take these fish and go and sell them to all my neighbors around the neighborhood for $50. So it didn't take long for that to come to an end, as one of my customers knocked on the door and asked my parents if they could buy more of these fish. Before the real estate industry, I owned a successful detailing business where I'd go to all the car lots, we'd pick up their vehicles and get them all lot ready for the dealerships. And I had a very successful business selling rims, tires, lift kits, and we did a lot of custom work for the retail public. I did things like Johnny Cupcake. I had a firewood business. I did snow plowing for my neighbors when it was snowing out, lawn mowing, power washing, and even at 5 years old, my grandma ran a hotel in Whistler, and I would charge people for hotel rides for elevator rides up and down in the elevator. So my brother and sister would be like, why does Bryce always have money? And, I guess the best way to explain it is I've always been motivated by money. And, but one of the things about real estate, one of the reasons that I picked real estate is my mom being a realtor back in the day, she did lots of volume, but she left a paycheck sitting right beside the computer, just as I'm going to do for my daughter here. But I looked at that paycheck, and it, basically right then was the time that I knew that I wanted to be a realtor.
So even when you were really young, you seek to different opportunities just to, kind of make money for yourself too.
Oh, so, yeah. Sure. Yeah. 5
That's
years.
awesome.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
That is awesome. So a lot of people, when they come into real estate, I guess, especially if they're coming in at a younger age, which you did, they always, real estate agents always have this, I guess, image of, success, right? They drive nicer cars, they dress nice, they suit and tie and everything like that.
Yeah.
But we know, being in the real estate industry, it's like we're like a duck swimming in a pond, right? It looks so steady, so good on top, but our feet are like paddling as hard as we can to get hustling. Yeah. And I mean, at the beginning for yourself, just kind of go back to yourself, is it took a lot of hard work, to get to where you are today. And so what was some of the stuff that you did, or you think that gave you traction, or some of the stuff that kind of you struggled with, and how do you overcome it, and so forth?
Yeah, well, right out of the gates was a very scary time for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of brand new agents. I got into the business thinking that I was going to make all this money because I had a passion for it. But I knew that I would do well, but I just had to get my traction. And but like every person, there's many ups and downs. And when I'm thinking back to when I first started, I went through a lot of dry months. And when I say dry, I mean dry. My bank account was overdrawn. My line of credits was maxed out. My credit cards were limited out, and living on Vancouver Island, you fish. So my wife and I and my kids, we ate just about every piece of fish out of the freezer. And, the cupboards are running dry. So I knew that I had to do something, and I had to do it quick. My mom was telling me just the other day, how proud she was of me, and referred back to the time that saying, Bryce, aren't you glad you didn't quit? So it was a struggle, it was a very scary time. And, like I said, I had to do something quick. My managing broker at the time, Jim Gordon, came to me and said, Bryce, I need you to take this course, 100 Days to Greatness with Brian Buffini. And I was just like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And he goes, when you're done, I'll reimburse you. And I had $300 sitting on my credit card where I could use it. And I'm like, Jim, I'm broke, but of course you couldn't tell him that. And again, I just had just enough room to do it. And that's when I quickly realized the power of, personal note cards. What I did is I wrote a note card to a very influential friend of mine who I respected in the community, not just because I knew that I'd get business of him, just because this guy is a great guy. And so he had 2 houses listed that were brand new builds. They weren't selling. They had them listed with a different agency. And basically he said, can you meet me at the house after you receive this card? And so these houses, like, and again, so he's like, well, what do I have to do to get these houses ready to sell? And I didn't have a lot of experience at the time. So, basically I'm saying, hey, these houses are brand new. They're side by side. There was no grass. They needed the fencing, and basically let's get some sprinklers put in it. But one thing that he said to me at the time is that he wanted a RE/MAX sign in the yard, and I'm sure glad that it was mine. So he did the work, and so I held 2 open houses shortly after this was done. And this young couple stopped by. He was a military firefighter with CFB Comox. His wife's a nurse, and they were just out for a drive because the ice arena had an ammonia leak. So this was my first open house ever, and we hit it off. This guy had another realtor, so he let him go, decided to work with me. They fell in love with the house and bought it. And right from this moment was kind of career changer for me. So I just double-ended one of the houses for the first time in a while. I was able to take a deep breath and pay off some of my credit card bill.
Right.
Before that, I was ready to call it quits and do something different. And, the absolute best thing of all, these people are now undisputed, probably very close. They're one of my best friends, and, they're undisputed, the best referral clients I've had to this day. So to say the least, the systems that our managing broker put in place for me, that when I think back to what really helped me with my career, was the power of personal note cards, and I still believe in them to this day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy that you didn't quit when you were running into trouble the first couple of years there. And and one of the, I guess, key attributes of, and I look at, and I talk to a lot of real estate agents too, and a lot of times it's not because you're successful, not because you're brilliant. I mean, you certainly have to have some knowledge and experience, but brilliant doesn't really dictate you. It doesn't equate to success. And a lot of times it's about being able to grind things out, right? To have grit. And imagine that time if you gave up, your career would be completely different. You might be still doing detailing, for example, right?
Oh, it could very well be. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really good thing for newer agents coming in. It's like, don't give up when you run into some challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't just, because and it's much more rewarding if you can overcome challenges and overcome it and then have some success. Because once you get that confident and you can build on it, and
Totally.
you become much better afterwards, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you you mentioned you run a real estate team now for a good number of years now. And going back to, I guess, you obviously started as an individual. I know you probably work with your mom a little bit, but you were still more of an individual agent overall. But at what point in your career that you feel that maybe I should start a team, and how did you build that team too?
Yeah, for sure. So right at the beginning, obviously my mom's my mom. She was there for me. It was instrumental having her there, like I said earlier. But I got to the point that I was running 7 days a week, basically pretty much all hours of the day and night. And I knew that I had to get some help. I was doing probably somewhere in the high 90s of transactions by myself, and with one really very good assistant. But the sad part is that, you'd go home for dinner and then I'd be gone again right after dinner. The phone would ring during dinner. Of course, you're one of those guys that would take the phone call, and I needed to make some changes fast before my wife made some changes in her husband, for sure. So, my mom was there. She was giving me a help. She was dealing with some of the leads that she could, but she didn't want to be running at the speed I was. She's been there, done that, and like she likes to say, is that she used to do it with no internet, no computers, no web forms. And she was telling me that it's funny, I have always kept one of these old catalogs that are full of all your listings and stuff like that. But she was telling me that they used to take these back and they'd have to pay for them from the MLS, and then they'd take them and go and drop them off to their clients. So things were quite a bit different. And but like I say, when you're moving at 100 miles an hour from appointment to appointment, it can be incredibly tempting for us as people looking to hire that first set of hands that comes along. I tried starting a team before and it didn't work out. And, I think basically what it was is simply because I was afraid to give away leads to agents, and and I've expected for them to be bringing me business, and I think my focus was off at that time there. It all pretty much changed when I started hanging out with top producing, other realtors that, that are influential and stuff like that. And, I go back to when I first started when I got different families in the REMAX organization, and I've got hockey family, conference families, my own, brokerage, but, it's definitely, I do feel that we're a lot of family together here. So, and it doesn't matter the situation, no matter if you get a little confused, they're always there for you. They're influential. And, I have so much love and respect for each and every one of those people, for sure. So, it was about 6 years ago or 7 years ago that I first started playing in my first REMAX hockey tournament. And right after that, there was a Activate conference in Vancouver. And so I did kind of the double header of that. And Ken Eddy was there at Activate, and of course he was on me trying to get me to come play hockey with everybody in Japan. And but one thing that I'll always remember that he said is that how much the hockey, the family, has helped his career throughout REMAX with the referrals and stuff like that. And and this team is full of top producing realtors and team leaders from all over Western Canada. So I had to go home and convince my wife, and after a couple of days, she said, "Yeah, you should go." So right then, as I learned the power after going on this trip with some of with the influencers and some of the best team leaders, like I said, in Canada, and to this day, a lot of these guys are my closest buddies, and they are running very successful teams, and there's a lot of team players on this. There's individuals that don't want to do teams, but playing in these tournaments and the hockey team and with the incredible group of influencers, basically these guys were there to tell you everything that they possibly could, and I was a sponge, pretty much just taking in everything that I could from these guys. And I worked on my business and built systems and put them in place, and I've had lots of help with coaching and mentorships, and I've heard many hard stories. I've heard many positive, negative stories. But personality was priority for me, looking for somebody in who I could trust, someone who would go out there and represent me, represent my brand, and emulate the experiences that my clients were having with me, so they would go out and do the same job with my clients. And I searched hard, and it was one of those, I remember looking for the cell phone guy trying to build my team, and I was selling Kelsey off my team a house, and basically she worked for a dental facility, and in the middle of it, I phoned her of the deal. I was just going to list our house, and basically after the phone call, the way that her voice hit me, it was one of those things where I don't even care if I sell their house now. I just want to make sure that I can get her on my real estate team at this point here. So, I really looked for that right person, but I guess one of the things for me now is passing over as many of these leads as I possibly can, and keep her as busy as I can. I feel that her success is, on my back. And the benefit of running a team now is that, I'm working less. I'm working Monday to Friday. I usually start around 7 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think that I really work past 6 o'clock at the latest. And I hardly work any evenings and weekends unless I'm needed. So,
yeah. Awesome. So you've went through that stage of having basically no life. Like you said, it's like you either make a choice or your wife's going to make the choice for you.
Oh.
But and that's it's a legitimate way of looking at why you should start a team. It's because you want things. You still want the production, but you want things to be more efficient, right? Yeah. And you basically become the person hustling to a leader yourself, and leveraging the hockey tournament, the guys that were part of the team, which you mentioned. There's a lot of successful team leaders themselves, and you're a sports guy, so yeah, leadership it almost comes as a natural for you since you were young, right?
Oh, for sure.
Instead, as leaders, we have to look at how we can ultimately help others to be successful, and return that kind of helps you too, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
You got to be learning at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Ready to learn. So actually, it's one of my I guess I don't know if it's called quote or something like that. One thing I like to say is that you always want to learn and always want to teach people, right? Because there's never enough things to learn. But on the other hand, what you learn, you should be teaching others that you believe in and develop their skill set too.
Yeah, for sure.
And talking about how you were looking at finding, I guess, a team member, personality and attitude is probably by far the most important point of it.
Absolutely.
Because you look at most salespeople. I mean, sales skills can be developed because you yourself as a team leader, you already have the sales skills. Yeah. It's a matter of if the person is motivated and can work with you ultimately, right?
Absolutely. It's one of those things. And when you're a team leader, you're still busy. Like I still probably, like, because I'm handing out this business to Kelsey or Jill or whoever's on our team, you know, I'm still always working on systems and stuff like that, you know, I can, and my job, like I say, is basically to bring my team leads and stuff like that. They're there, you know, they're trying to feed off you, right? So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, you know, being part of the Remax hockey team, which for those that don't know, actually Remax does have I guess an official, I don't know what you call it, a Remax hockey tournament every year.
I would say for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's typically a couple teams that we, you know, made of Remax agents, and they gather together every year to have a tournament. How did your team do this year, by the way?
Yeah, we took the gold. I'd like to rub that.
Awesome.
You know, awesome. There's, like I say, there's the tournament is phenomenal. So if you're a new agent or anybody like that looking, you know, we play once a year, and there's players that are of all calibers. There's guys that can hardly skate. There's guys that have played pretty much semi-pro hockey, and you know, so there's different calibers, and you know, it's just everybody's welcome. And you know, we definitely, and all the money that we raise for this tournament goes to the Children's Miracle Network, and you know, it's for good cause, and it's a good time to get out there and you know, basically meet some different influential realtors for sure. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's change the topic slightly here. So a lot of real estate agents, regardless of, a lot of real estate agents in the industry affiliate themselves with a particular brand, right? And most of the reason why people are affiliated with the brand is because they want to leverage the brand either from a tool point of view or training point of view or image point of view. And how you're obviously with us, which is awesome. Yeah. But how have you, how have you taken, advantage of, leveraging a brand itself?
Well, when I first started, and I'm going to go back to basically when I first started in the business, when I first started, I didn't have my own brand just because I was born, not born in the Comox Valley, but when I was 3 years old, this is when we moved to the Comox Valley. So my roots were very deep in the community. And, basically when I first started, like I said, I didn't have my own brand. I knew that I had to prove myself. And I flew the Remax balloon on every single piece of marketing that I possibly could because it was so already recognized, and my job was that I wanted people to know that I was a Remax agent, through all my social media posts. I wrapped my vehicle. I bought a 26-foot moving trailer, and it's fully deckled and branded and stuff like that. And it sits in a very high profile location in the Comox Valley here. And, I believe in the power of the brand, and I recognize that even before I was a realtor, with my family being, in the real estate industry for so long, that, I knew it was a top brand in real estate. So I was really excited. And, at the beginning of the career, the Remax name and the brand was massive for me and my success. And having the name and the balloon associated with my name just gave me instant credibility. People right out of the gates, held you with some clout, and I didn't necessarily have to prove myself because I had the Remax name behind me. So now I've personally built my own brand, but together still with the affiliation and the partnership of Remax, it makes me and my team that much more powerful and that much more influential.
Awesome. So I guess early on in your career, the brand itself, it's a little bit different from early on in your career and now. I guess from earlier in your career, it kind of gave you credibility because you didn't sell real estate. Nobody knew you sell real estate, right? That's how you
Yeah,
started off with.
for sure. And I
And
hit
and that
Facebook
kind
like
of
crazy. Nobody was hitting Facebook back in those days either, and I really
actually that is true. That's the beginning of Facebook. I think 2007,
yeah,
2008 or
broker came to me. He's just like he was telling everybody in like the because my first 6 or 7 months, I think I did like 36 ends, and it was tough at the beginning part of it, but once I got my momentum and traction going, it was a little bit. I just had good systems in place, right? Thank God to my mom.
That's awesome.
But,
That's awesome.
yeah,
And then I guess later on in your career, I mean, you've developed your own, credibility and your experience in the area, but you still leverage the brand because of the connections you had, right?
oh yeah,
Um, and that kind of goes back to what we talked about. There's never enough things to learn, and you can always learn something by talking to someone that does what you do, right, in real estate.
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so actually, we're coming to a part of our interview that it's time for a Remax hustle tip, and we want your Remax hustle tip for people, viewers here. It's something that's unique to you, or something you believe in, or something you experienced. So,
Yeah.
what would be your Remax hustle tip?
Well, to me, Remax is one of the best brands of the industry, and until recently, I didn't recognize or realize the importance of what the Remax brand had to offer to us as agents. Not just Remax as a corporation, but our local brokerages and the systems that those guys have in place that are instrumental. Over the course of 10 years, I guess I've been complacent, I would say. And, as Remax, the Remax way is the only way that I've ever known. And, saying the grass is greener on the other side, I know now it's not true. But for me personally, it's not all about money. I've gone through a period of indecision, and I realize now how much Remax as a whole and the value that they provide me means to me. I value the relationships both personally and professionally, and the ones that Remax itself, and I think when I think back, those guys, Remax itself introduced me to where I'm at today in my success. Not only have I benefited from the incredible network, but it's my sphere of influence, and now there's a lot of these guys are some of my best friends for sure, and their families too. Like it goes deep now. It's what you make of it, and you need to participate. You need to get out of your box. You need to utilize the tools and that are at hand and provided to us, and but true success, again, to me, is not all about money and awards. For me personally, I feel that the success encompasses, many different factors, and it's about balance between having a career that you love, good friends, helping others, and most importantly, having a happy home life. I'm proud to fly the balloon beside my name, and to me, I'm working for the best brand in real estate.
Well, first of all, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But I think you hit just the right spot there, because a lot of agents, and you mentioned at least twice in that tip, is that it's not always about the money, right? And especially younger agents that's coming in the industry, they keep chasing the number, and ultimately, a lot of times they run into a burnout situation, and which happens. And it's good to have a balance in life. I mean, all of us should to work towards a really good career, make good money for your family, and so forth. But you should always maintain your family, because that's the
Oh,
key, right?
yeah.
That is the end goal, not the money. Money is just the process. The end goal is your family, ultimately.
Absolutely. That's what we're working for. It's
Yeah.
for me, it's what my kids will have at the end of it all, right? So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, and so it's how you go about it's all about the mindset, how you go about with it, right? And a lot of times going back to the brand question itself, it's a lot of times it's how you leverage the brand, right? regardless of Remax or any other brand out there, they develop tools and services for agents to use to make their life easier. But you still, as an agent or a team leader, you still have to take the initiative to understand what they are to make your life easier, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's always a saying, you can't force train somebody that does not want to learn. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you have like a turnkey situation, but if the person doesn't even want to lift up their finger, it wouldn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But the most important point, I guess, that you made is relationships, and it's the key of our business, right? And you have to be able to maintain that, hang out with people, talk to people continuously to maintain that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I say, don't be shy and just be yourself. And it's it's one of the biggest tips that I could personally say is that again, you just gotta. They're deep. The relationships are deep.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's irreplaceable, right? Oh, and a lot of people are always looking for a competitive advantage over another, but the relationship, your personality and your relationship is ultimately the competitive advantage over anybody else. So yeah, so that's we're coming to an end of the interview here, and usually what happens is that people will make comments or suggestions through the chat side of things. If you have time, afterwards, and I'm sure you do, just kind of monitor it and maybe perhaps help some of the people out, and if they have any questions, and we'll go from there.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, been fun. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.